Hello everyone, and welcome to another C programming tutorial. This is part 2. I will put the link to the part 1 in the description. So, in the previous video, we were writing a simple hello world program that printed hello world John 64. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use these arguments here to interact with your program. So one simple thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to print all the arguments that were given. So first I'm going to remove our printf thing here that we did. I'm still going to include stdio.h because we're still going to print some stuff. Okay. First, let's just print how many arguments that we were given. So let's just do number of arguments. And as you remember, if we do %d, it means that we're gonna print an integer. So I'm just gonna pass in argc, which is the length of how many arguments that we were given. It's the length of the string list here. So let's just compile our program again, and let's do gcc main.c, and we generated an a.out file. Let's execute it, and number of arguments is 1. Now we forgot to make a new line, so it looks kind of weird here, right? Before we do that, I'm just going to copy this whole thing, and I'm actually going to create a part 2 folder instead. Part 2, and I'm going to create a main.c file. There we go. So let's add a new line here so that it gets printed a little bit prettier, and let's go to the part 2 folder. Okay, let's compile our program again, run it. There we can see number of arguments 1. And now you're thinking, but we didn't give it any arguments. Well, the first argument is actually going to be this. This is the first argument. That's why we're getting 1. So let's just print all of the arguments that we were given. So to do that, we can simply create a loop that loops over all of the arguments. And to create a loop, we can use a for loop for this. So the way you write a for loop is the following. For int I is equal to 0. So the first thing we did here was define I, an integer called I, and we set it to 0. And then we check if I is less than argc, and argc is the length of our arguments, then I'm going to do I plus equals 1. So the for loop takes in 3 arguments basically. And the first argument is the initializer. So, and we are initializing a variable called I, and we set it to 0. And the second argument is, I guess you can call it a comparison, or a check, or it's an expression basically. So we're saying that if I is less than argc, then we're going to increment I with 1. So until we run out of arguments, we're going to keep incrementing I with 1. Okay, so now we can print the arguments inside of here. So this is a string list of arguments. So what we can do to access the current string inside of that list is to use the I index, or the I integer. So we can do printf, and we're going to print a string. So I'm going to do %s, and I'm gonna give it argv I. So I'm saying that I want to access the I index inside of the argv list. Now, if I wanted to just access the first argument, for example, I could just do 0. But we want to access all of the arguments. I'm going to use I. Remember, we're inside of a loop here. So let's also add a new line here. Now let's compile our program. gcc main.c, and now we can run our program. And as you can see, number of arguments 1, and it printed this one. We only had a 1 argument, and that was the argument. So how do we give it more arguments? Well, we simply run our program, and everything we put next to the a.out here is going to be given to the argument list. So let's do hello. Now you can see the number of arguments is 2. The first one was a.out, and the next one was hello. Let's put something else. Let's put 64. Now we got 3 arguments: a.out, hello, and 64. I think you're seeing where this is going. So how can we use this for something? Well, let's have the user of the program give us his or her name. So what we can do is printf hello and a string and a new line, and let's just print the first argument. Now the first argument is actually going to be a.out, remember. So we actually want to use the second argument, 1. And yes, lists starts on 0, or arrays starts on 0. So the second argument is always has the index of 1. Okay. So let's compile our program again. gcc main.c, and if we run it, let's just run it without giving it a second argument. We're gonna get hello null, and that's not very pretty, is it? So if we give it our name, let's say our name is John, it's gonna print hello John. But maybe we want our program to fail if the user didn't give us a name. We can simply do if argc is less than 2, return 1. So what we're doing here is that we're checking if argc is less than 2, and argc is the length of our argument, right? Then we're going to return 1. And we're returning 1 because we're basically telling other programs that this program failed. Okay? So now if we compile our program again and we run it, it's not going to print anything. It failed. Unless I give it something. Maybe we want to print some nice message for the user when we're failing. Then we can simply do printf, please tell me your name. Let's compile it, run it. Please tell me your name. Okay, my name is John. There we go. Hello, John. So that's how you can use the arguments to implement interaction from the user and your program. And that's basically it. Now there are more advanced argument parsers that you can write to maybe you wanted to give the program a number and you wanted to increment that number with some other number. Well, that's not gonna work right away because the arguments are always strings, so you would have to convert it to a number. But that's for another video, I think. But this is the basic usage of the arguments. And it can be pretty useful in some cases. For example, if we are using the ls program taking some arguments, right? So one argument could simply be -l. Then it's going to list the files in another way. So the ls program is also using these arguments to implement that kind of behavior or interaction from the user. So very simple stuff. So that's it for this video. Now we have learned how to write a hello world program, and we have learned how to use the arguments. And yeah, thank you for watching. And if you're not already a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss any of my uploads, please hit the upload or the bell button. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.